welcome to the course Augmenting Design Thinking with Human Computer Interaction. So, in the last lecture, we had seen a brief overview of the subject, and today we will begin with the design thinking phases. The first phase, which is empathy. So, if we see the design thinking process here, like we discussed earlier, so it is made up of several steps which are discover, define, develop, and deliver. So, coming to the first step of design thinking process, which is discover. So, we will look at this particular process in a bit of a detail. Now, this discover phase is also known as the empathize phase, and it is the first phase in the design thinking process. So, this particular step involves understanding the needs, motivations, challenges, and visions of the users for whom we are going to be designing or solving a certain problem. And the goal here is to understand the insights and delve deeper into the problem. Now, there are several steps in this discover phase which are important, and what makes this important are a couple of reasons, like the user centered insights. So, since the design process on a whole is user centric, we always aim for a user centric solution. So, this method, which is empathy or discovery phase, this establishes a foundation of empathy for the users and also ensures that the team is keeping the perspectives of the users in mind while we are in the design process. Also, we have to identify the real needs. Now, there can be wants and there can be needs. Wants are something that we can do without, but needs are really imperative for us to flourish. So, we have to understand what are the real needs. And for that purpose, the discover phase becomes very important so that we can sift through the wants and needs and identify the most relevant ones to work further with. And then building empathy. So, again, we have to put ourselves into the shoes of the user. So, empathy is different from the term sympathy, where we are sympathizing, but empathize is to put ourselves and see the whole scenario from the point of view of the user, because there may be several things that we may have and we take for granted. So, we may be, for example, we have water taps. So the moment we turn it on, we get water, we get hot water, cold water. But there are several, thousands of people across the world also, and as well as in our country, who don't have access to that clean water. So we have to sort of empathize with those people, because it is not our problem. Because we are not facing it doesn't mean that others are not facing it. So for these reasons, this particular step becomes very important in the whole design thinking process. Now, there are several tools that we will be using. So, we will be discussing them further with the help of a few examples. But these tools that we employ for this particular step, so they are interviews wherein we conduct one-on-one interviews, or also focus group interviews. So, this is a very qualitative way of finding the needs and the challenges that the users are facing. And these questions can be open ended, which means that this can be like a conversation. So, from one answer, we can come up with a question, and so on and so forth. Surveys are another effective way of reaching out to a large population, because they are quantitative method of collecting data, and these can be options where people can tick the correct answer or as per their experience, or also it could be having a space for them to elaborate on the problem. Then observation is another important tool. Now, sometimes when we are conducting interviews or taking the questionnaires, there may be still some gaps in our understanding of the problem. So, observation, wherein we are in the real situation where the user is actually placed. So, observing the user also helps us articulate the problem a little bit better, understand the problem more in detail. So, in this particular method where we are observing, we can take notes, so that we can get back to these at a later stage. And then journey mapping is another very important tool, wherein we are visually representing the user's experience over time. In a physical example, if we are designing the transportation network of a city, for example, and we want to see that what kind of challenges does a person who is wheelchair bound he faces. So then we will map that person's journey from point A to point B, and then we will see all the challenges that this person encounters. Right. Now, taking an example from the digital domain, now if we have to redesign maybe a smartphone application for a public transportation system. Now, in this particular case, what we will do is that we will conduct a user research by conducting interviews, talking with people, taking their feedback, and then identifying their pain points or the challenges that they face. So maybe there is a problem with the real time data, so it's not providing them with the real time data, or they may be frustrated because of the difficulty in understanding the icons or how or where things are placed in the application, or maybe they want a more intuitive user interface. So by user research, talking with people, observing them while they are tinkering with the application, we can pinpoint the problems and also come up with solutions. Like, for example, maybe the application is crashing too much, or maybe there is a language barrier. So while we are doing all of these, putting all of these methods to practical application, we can then find out the loopholes that are there in the existing design. So some of the best practices that one can employ while applying this particular method, first is to be open minded. So we have to keep our biases or our thinking process, because we may have come across certain article or we may have developed some sort of an understanding of the situation, but we have to keep those biases aside when we are delving into this area, into this research phase. Then we have to use diverse methods. Now, there are some qualitative methods, some quantitative methods, and a combination usually of these two methods gives us a better output in terms of understanding of the problem from a holistic point of view. So we may and we should consider using both types of these methods when we are here in this phase. And then active listening, because like I mentioned earlier also, that keeping our biases aside, but also we have to actively listen and have to create a rapport with our end user, because we have to sort of build a trust in ourselves so that they can open up and really share their viewpoint with us and their challenges with us, because they may not be comfortable really sharing their problems. So we have to build that rapport, and that one way to build that is to be an active listener, where we are giving them our attention and we are not being judgmental while we are doing that. Now, how do we empathize? So we know now that why empathy becomes an important aspect in the design process, design thinking process. But now the question is that how do we go about empathizing? Right. So the first way of empathizing with our users is to observe. Now, by observing, we mean tracking people and their behavior, and also noticing if there's any disconnect between what they are saying and what they are doing. So sometimes it so happens that when we are taking the interview of a user, so they will say something, but when we actually start observing them with a certain product, for example, we will observe certain discrepancy. Now, this could be for several reasons. One is that the user may not be very, could not, may not be able to articulate the challenges that they are facing. So, they are not able to put the problem into the right frame or explain it efficiently. And the other may be that they have gotten so used to facing this problem that they probably don't even look at it as a problem anymore. So, when we observe them, finding some alternate way of solving it, or as we call it as jugaad, so then we realize that the one method of inquiry is not enough, and we also need to use other methods of inquiry to get a holistic idea of the problem or the challenges that are being faced. Now, engaging is the next step. So wherein we talk with the people that we are, who are the user group, and we actively listen and we ask the question why. So we will also be looking at this method in detail in the next few slides. But the why method helps us reach to the root cause of the problem. So when we keep on asking the five whys, the method, so then each why uncovers a new information, and it leads us to the root cause of the problem. So then we know where it is stemming up from. And then we have to watch and listen. So we have to be unbiased, we have to be, because we want them to be transparent with us, so it is just justified that we also be transparent. We are not judgmental. Our body language, the way we speak, the tone we use, the words we speak, all of those things together have to convey to the user that they can trust us. And we have to watch their emotions. So at the same time, we also have to see their body language, what are they feeling, their emotions, their, the way they're communicating the problem with us. And also when we are observing them, we have to ask ourselves and make notes that what are they doing or why are they doing that. So like I mentioned, the jugaad that some people may do, so it will be a question, because if we are not used to doing or solving a problem in a certain manner the way they are trying to solve it, so this question may come to our mind that what are they doing and why are they doing it. So making notes of these kinds of observations is important, because then we can understand all the challenges or the problems that are being faced by the users. So, continuing with the same question, which is how do we empathize? Now, we have to understand that in every problem, there are certain stakeholders, people who are directly affected by a certain problem or an issue. So, in this example here, we can see that there is tank, a water tanker, which is delivering water to this community here. So, let us first start by looking at the key stakeholders here, and then we will apply this step by step process of empathy to see that how do we tackle these problems. Now, design thinking on a whole is a technique or a method that is very useful in solving wicked problems. So, wicked problems are problems that are very complicated, which are complex problems, and they may not be solvable by using the regular methods that we are used to employ for solving other problems. Right. So now water, the shortage of water, scarcity of water, that is a global phenomena. It is a problem that the whole world is dealing with. And while I gave the example of the tap earlier, there are many communities, many villages, many towns which are facing the problem of scarcity of water and also hygienic clean drinking water. So we'll just take this example here and let's just list down the key stakeholders who are directly involved in this scenario. So you can see here on the slide that they are residents of the village or the town, the local community leaders, the water delivery truck drivers, the project organization, and also the healthcare workers. So now the key activities in this project. So if we break down that, how will we go about the broad steps will be to understand the need, so that we have established that the need needs to be established first, and then we have to develop a solution, and finally we have to have a implementation strategy. So all of these steps together will ensure that the final solution is reaching efficiently to the users. Now let's take the one by one, let's take the stakeholders, and let's see how can we empathize with these stakeholders. So now in case of the residents, who are the key players here, because they are the ones directly getting affected by scarcity of water, and this whole system is being designed for their benefit. So now the methods that we can use here are first the user interviews, where we will in-depth interviews will be conducted to understand their challenges, their pain points. So we can ask questions like how far do you travel to collect water? What challenges do you face in accessing clean water? And how does the lack of clean water affect your daily life and health? So these are just few examples, and we can build more around these questions, or there can be several other relevant questions as well. But these questions, more or less broadly, will let us know the important things that we are trying to uncover. Then, second is the observation, like we have discussed. So, then we will observe. We may use the method of shadowing, where we shadow the user, we follow the user. So for example, if these villagers or this community people are fetching water from a river, then we may follow them to the river and then back to their homes and see the whole process of filling up the water, carrying it on their head back to the home. Or if it is a community well, then what happens there? Maybe there's a long queue, maybe there is some sort of a fight that breaks out, or it's a first come first serve situation. So whatever it may be, so we may use this method of following user and observing at what stages do they face certain challenges. And then we will create the empathy map. So empathy maps, like I said, they are visual representations. So we can see here that this is an example of the empathy map here, which is in all four quadrants we have says, thinks, feels and does. So this is what the user says, the user thinks, feels and does. So this empathy maps, they really help us, the designers and the team, to understand the problem in depth, and some things which are spoken or unspoken, they can also be noted down. So when we are conducting this interview, and then we will be noting down the outcome from the interview into this map. So just for illustration purpose, so now the user may say, when we are asking them the pertinent questions, they may inform us that we walk miles every day to collect water from a distant well, and the water we get is often dirty and makes our children sick. So this is the what is verbally being told to the researcher. And when we observe, we may notice, like here also you can notice in these images, that they are using all sorts of pots and pans, plastic, metal. They may be unhygienic. So maybe that is observation that we are making, that the pans are not very hygienic. The way they store the water is very unhygienic. And there are long queues. So even here in this image we can see around the water tank that there is a huge crowd which has gathered around, and also probably they all have brought their own pipes, the green pipes, to fetch water from, because they may be worried that the water will get over and they will not be able to fill up their pots, and then how will they go about with their day. So this is the observation that we are making. And so when we are putting all these things together, when we are putting our observations and insights together, so in the says section in the empathy map, we can add that we need clean water for drinking and cooking. So that is what the user is saying. The other thing they are saying is that our children fall sick often because of dirty water. So these are the verbalized information that they are providing to us. Now what they are thinking is that I wish there was an easier way to get clean water. I'm worried about the health of my family. So behind what they are saying, there is a thinking process that is going on the cognitive level, which is concerned about these two things. And how they feel is, the feeling that is being generated from these two simple statements is a feeling of frustration, because they are frustrated, because they have to probably spend many hours standing in the queue waiting for water, or maybe the truck is delayed, it doesn't come at a fixed time, they have to go to work, they have to go farming or just go about their day, and a lot of time is spent there waiting for it. And also they are worried and anxious about the quality of the water and what kind of harm it may bring to their children or their family members. So this is what they are feeling. And what they are doing is they're walking long distances to fetch water, uh, or they are standing in long queues to fetch water, and they use contaminated water for daily needs. So they are using water which is not filtered, which may have some metals or some other impurities, waterborne diseases, which they may be carrying home, and then their children are having those. Now, looking at our next stakeholder, which is our local community leaders. So now the local community leaders are the ones who will also give us a lot of insights into the problems that are being faced by the local people, because they have spent a lot more time with them, or maybe they belong to this place even. So they understand the different methods which have earlier also been implemented and why they have failed, why some things did not work. So empathizing with the, this particular leader group is also equally important. So here we can have interviews where we can discuss the community's needs and the potential solutions that can be there. And so we may ask questions like, what are the primary water related issues in your community, and how do water shortage impact the community activities, so they can shed more light on this aspect, that how children are not going to school, or women are not able to do certain jobs on time. And then we can also ask them questions like, what solutions have been attempted before, so we know that what has not worked in the past, or what are the gaps that are still there in this whole problem situation. The next thing that can be done is to hold workshops with these leaders, wherein we can create the solutions together with the community leaders. Like I said, that they belong to this community and they know the community and their needs much better, so that can be very helpful. And of course, during these workshops, they may feel encouraged to also share their insights and their knowledge and experiences, because they are sitting with their other community members and it is a safe space for them to share this information. And then also community meetings. So the meetings that the community leaders, so for example, the panchayat in case of a village, or the town meetings that the community has. So attending those meetings, the researcher, if they are allowed to attend these meetings, they can actually get the information of what kind of discussions are happening on the ground. So that can be a very, very helpful scenario for the researcher. And also, like we discussed earlier, that building rapport, how important it is, and active listening. So of course, using those features as well in this particular community meeting will be very helpful to catch hold of the gaps that may have been left. Now, another section which we may overlook is the water delivery truck drivers and the delivery boys. So we can see in this image also that they are, how they have climbed up onto the truck and they are helping people out. So they are trying their best to cater to as many people as they can. So they're also, we can see, working in difficult climatic conditions, and they may be driving on a difficult terrain. So it becomes important that their well-being is also taken care of. So we can, interview them, talk with them, try to understand their challenges, what kind of problems are they facing on a daily basis, because it is a tough job. It is the same job of driving on a certain route to deliver this water. So we can ask them questions like, what difficulties do you encounter during deliveries? How can the delivery process be made more efficient? And what support do you need to perform your job better? So since they are the ones who are actually driving in this harsh weather condition and they are driving on a certain route, so they may have certain insights that changing the route slightly may be better, because then in the new route they may find a water source where they can refill their truck, and then it can cater to a lot more people. So some of those insights, because they are the ones on the road, so they will be very helpful for to come up with a final solution wherein the implementation stage, or there could be other solutions that they may come up with as well. The other is way to go about understanding their perspective is the ride along. So that is almost like the method shadowing. So here we ride along with the drivers in their truck. So we are also having a first hand experience of the kind of day they are experiencing. And so we are observing challenges that they are facing, like difficult terrain or difficult weather. And then the lastly, we can also utilize from the feedback session, so wherein we are collecting the feedback of the drivers on a regular basis so that we can keep on implementing these suggestions to make the system more robust. And also there could be a platform probably where the drivers could keep in touch with each other. They could have a connect with the other drivers, so that could also be a possible solution. Now, coming to the next stakeholder, which is the project organizers. So, here also we can benefit from stakeholder meetings because they are the ones who will be organizing this project, they will be implementing this project. So, the stakeholder meeting is going to be very relevant. So, people from all, the ones that are here on the screen, maybe there will be some other stakeholders as well. So, all of them can be brought under one roof, and then the idea sharing can be done, the problem discussion can be done. And here it is important that these meetings are done on a regular basis because the challenges, the problems can change over time. They can be new problems, or new problems can arrive from certain solutions that have been implemented. So then regular meetings sort of ensure that no loopholes are remaining in the in the step forward that we are planning to take. And also it is important that all voices are heard because decision making process is a very important step, important process. And if so, for example, like when we say there is no wrong question, so similarly there is no input that is irrelevant. So for that reason all voices should be heard so that the decision making process is smoother and it is more efficient. Of course, workshops can be conducted, so several methods like brainstorming and other methods can be used. Some activities can be done so that, again, this is another way of coming up with, finding problems and empathizing with the stakeholders, wherein the organizers can see and really feel the pain points of the users. And of course, surveys and questionnaires, wherein questions like what are the main challenges you face in this project? How can we improve coordination and communication? And what additional resources or support you may need? So, these kind of questions, for an example, will help us get better insights into this. And lastly, the healthcare workers. So, of course, it's another a very important segment in the whole situation because health ultimately is very important. And if we are fulfilling a basic need, which is of getting water, but it is impacting our health negatively, then it really serves no purpose. So now in for this particular stakeholder also the interview process can help. So we can ask questions like how does the lack of clean water affect the community's health? What common waterborne illnesses do you encounter? In what seasons these illnesses are seen more? So and what preventive measures are currently being used? So these questions and other questions will help one get an idea that, of course, water testing is another way, that what kind of water is being produced from the well or the river. But here, asking these questions also tells us the perspective of the healthcare worker because they also have to they have the best interests of the community at heart, and they also understand the problems, the health problems, more than anyone else can. So focus group discussions can also be very helpful, wherein a lot of these healthcare workers can sit together, talk, and more issues can be unearthed through this particular problem. And then collaborative workshops, again, wherein certain techniques, certain design thinking steps can be undertaken, wherein which can lead us to certain more insights that probably went missing earlier. And also the monitoring and evaluation of the impact on the health. So that is another thing that will need to be seen. So now let us see some of the methods that are used in the empathize phase. Now, empathy maps are visual tools which are used to capture insights about the users by illustrating what they say, think, feel, and do. So we have seen an example of it already earlier. Then user stories is another interesting way. So they are brief and simple descriptions and of a feature from the perspective of the end user, and they have a certain format wherein a user sort of puts it in a sentence form that as user I want this goal so that I may be able to do this. So it is in that format. So these are short user stories which tell us that who is a user, what is their goal, and then what is the reason why they have that certain goal. So these are concise ways in understanding the the problem and empathizing with the user. Now role playing is a method where the team members are involved in acting out the scenarios, and this is very helpful to explore the different perspectives and also to gain deeper insights into the user experiences. So, for example, carrying a certain weight, so going back to the same example, maybe they carry a 10 liter of a container on their head. So, now carrying a container, weighing 10 liters on their head will tell the team that how difficult it is, and especially when it is done in a natural scenario outside, when it may be raining or it may be hot, or there may be some other natural calamity or some other issue. Then interviews, you've already seen that how the interviews you know tell us about the needs and preferences of the user, and these are a way to collect rich qualitative data, so these are very useful. Now diaries and journaling is another method wherein the users, they record their thoughts and their activities and experiences over a period of time. So it is like a daily mapping of their day, for example. So it helps us see some patterns, some repetitive actions we may see, and that may tell us or help us empathize with those certain aspects that they are facing in their daily life. And then we have the direct observation of behavior patterns. So this is watching the user in the natural scenario, in the natural environment, so that we are able to really articulate the problem and really understand the problem and empathize with them better. So by observing the user's behaviors patterns, the team can gather objective data on how the products are used. So, this brings us to the end of today's lecture, and we will continue the session with the next step of empathy in the next class. So, thank you.